Okay, if everybody's ready to call this meeting to order. Well, first place, we'll welcome Magistrate Jerry Hahn back to the court. Jerry, they approved the budget on first reading. We've advertised it for second reading on June, first part of June. So you are covered on the blacktop. They didn't steal it while you're gone.
Thank you. There, two right there, might have stolen it from me.
We'll move on to the minutes of the May 2nd meeting.
Motion to approve is presented.
Motion's approved by Sam Hutchins. Second by, who was second? Jeff? Lear? All approved, say aye.
Aye.
Disapprove? Motion will carry. Next will be your bills list and your additional bills and transfers. It's that time of the year, ain't it?
So this is the last payment to Lincoln Trust?
That's the last payment to the health department this fiscal year. Times forward.
I know. Glad they don't do it all at once.
It's a state law per capita assessment. I went through the bills list and did not see any significant problems with it in the additional bills list.
All right, one question on the solid waste fund. That general fund, 3%, what's that?
That's a franchise fee that we pay ourselves. When we were with Waste Management,
Oh, yeah, I know.
we were paying 3% of what you collect goes into, actually it's only on the, is it on the tipping fee or the solid waste?
It's on the number of customers.
Number of customers, yeah. 3%.
Average number of customers throughout the year at 3%.
3%. And so in order to keep that business, keeping it separate like a business, we'll transfer that just to see if we can do it.
The BDM Collision Center, is that an insurance rebate?
On the
ambulance?
EMS. I should have marked it that way, sorry.
Entertain a motion to approve the bills and transfers.
I'll make a motion to pay the bills as presented.
Yes. Thank you, Bernard. Your second to that motion?
I'll second.
Second by Sam Hutchins. Any further discussion? All approved, say aye.
Aye.
Disapprove? Motion carried. You had a question after.
Right. On this, I mean, I'm just saying that, like this, the bags being broken down at the jail and things.
Those have been replacements.
Yeah.
They've been.
What I'm just trying to say is, did they do it down there at the jail, or it just rotted out, or what?
What, the glass? No.
Yeah.
They broke it,
They broke it.
and do they pay for it?
If they get money, we take them to court anyway. We're charged with it.
Oh, they charge with it?
Yes, we charge them with it. If we find out who did it, we can charge them.
That's happened more than one time, too.
Yes, and if I see it on camera, they get charged.
Okay, that's what we're saying.
Don't think you don't necessarily always collect it either.
Exactly.
But then the tax people, money has to pay for it, and then y'all have to
We
get it
don't-
out of them.
We go to court and try to get them to reimburse it. And it stays on the book in courts. And they can make payments on it, a little at a time. No, they are charged.
Okay.
Same if they tear up a mattress or they tear up their uniforms, they're charged with it.
Any other questions?
No.
We'll move on then to the second reading on an amendment for the court fees ordinance as suggested by Circuit Clerk Diane Thompson. We've already held first reading on that ordinance, just basically changing the language. Entertain a motion to approve on second reading and adoption. Motion by Jerry Hahn, second by Jeff Lear. All approved, say aye.
Aye.
Disapprove? Motion will carry. Next will be a list of appointments. First two appointments will be to the Nelson County Public Library Board of Trustees. They recommended Molly Mattingly and Rachel Browning to the Board of Trustees.
Are they already on that right now?
They are already on that reappointment. I'm not, let's see, one of them is reappointed, yeah, both of them reappointed.
How long is that term for?
No, I'm sorry, one of them's reappointed, one's a new appointment. Rachel's a new appointment. Rachel's she's a health advisor at the Lincoln Trail Health Department.
4-year term.
4 years.
That's what it says here.
Yeah.
Our order usually, we have a standard order where it's governed by their bylaws, regulations.
I make a motion to both my language.
Thank you. Jeff Lear made the motion, seconded by Sam Hutchins. All approved, say aye. Disapprove, motion will carry. Next would be appointment to the North Nelson Water District Board. I'm recommending to the court to approve Nikki Rather to that board. Nikki has served on a lot of boards and has some leadership skills. I think would be important with the loss of Bob Robinson on the North Nelson. Bob was the chairman, and Nikki has a lot of experience in the tourism board, the BIDC board, and I think he will bring to the table and a great asset. The board was really enthused about that recommendation.
I agree.
Motion?
I make the motion.
Since Keith got it second, I think, here. All approved, say aye.
Aye.
Disapprove? Motion carries. That was Jeff made the motion and Keith second. Okay. Next will be first reading of the, get my paperwork here, an amended application on number 2222 and 2361. This is Nally and Hayden Holdings and Greg and Rebecca Brothers. Changes to the conditions of the original ordinance, and Janet suggested that we go through the first reading and second reading procedures on this because it was technically done that way in the original ordinance. This modification is Bernard to the height of the berm and then a shared entrance that will be shared with Mago. It makes sense.
Yes, it does make sense.
Entertain a motion to approve on first reading, advertised for a second.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Bernard.
Second.
Second by Sam Hutchins.
Question.
Discussion?
On this, Jan, it says that court can't change the 100-foot setback rule.
They actually want, they need a variance
Okay.
in order to do that. They want to be able to share the scale building, the scale house, and so in order to do that, they have to have a variance application.
Okay.
And because you all and the planning commission can't grant a variance.
Right.
But no, I do that process. That's a different
That
process.
process is not involved in
No,
this.
it's not.
Okay, good deal. That was the only question I had.
Any questions?
Yeah, I'll go one. The height of the berm, it went from 10 foot to 6 foot.
Went to from 15 feet with trees planted out front to 8 to 10 feet with trees planted on the top. So we're not sure exactly where, other than the engineering firm just proposed 15 feet with the trees planted out front, but you're essentially going to get the same height and screening. And now Nally and Hayden owns all of the property adjoining, so they're basically screening themselves. But it will provide a visual buffer from the actual quarry operations. But it should still be 15 feet in height, so with the trees.
Okay, have a motion and a second. All approved, say aye.
Aye.
Disapprove? Motion will carry. Okay, next would be a proposed amendment to the zoning regulations in regards to overnight lodging. Tim, you want to discuss that a little bit with the court?
All right, so currently in the regulations, the ordinance allows for bed and breakfast establishments. That is where someone either owns a home, lives there, and rents it out for transient guests with less than 30-day stays. They either rent the whole home as a bed and breakfast inn, or they rent it as they live there and then rent out rooms while they live there. A bed and breakfast under both local law and state law requires for minimal food service. So that's, state law says you have to provide a continental breakfast. The local regulations say you just have to have minimal food service. So you can either rent out the whole home or rent out portions of your home, but the deal is that you have to provide the food service. What has come about in the last year or so with Airbnb.com, the VRBO, which is vacation rental by owner, and the Airbnb, it has become much easier to market your property for what is being called short-term rentals. Short-term rentals are those where you just rent them out. You don't have to stay there. The owner's not there. They can rent out a portion of the home or the entire home, but there is no food service at all. So that's really the only difference in the short-term rental and a bed and breakfast. But currently, the local regulations say bed and breakfast only in A1 zoning and all the residential zonings. So what this proposal does is it provides the flexibility to allow someone in the county, the city's already passed this and we're still working on the smaller cities, but it allows someone in the county in an A1 zone or all the residential zones to also do a short-term rental. But there are some conditions placed on how you can do that, how you can operate. We've always in the past, when it comes through the conditional use permit process through the Board of Adjustments, we always have a little bit of fear of the unknown from the adjoining property owners as to who's going to be there, how it's going to be operated. You know, you have transient guests in and out of those facilities. So we've kind of had some fear of the unknown as to how it's going to operate, who's going to be there, what if we have issues. So we've really had a surgence of these in the city primarily, but we're also seeing them in the county. Keith, we have a new one in New Hope that's come about at the old New Hope store. So we're seeing them all over the county. So right now, and countywide, we have 48 of these that are approved. I'm sorry, 42 approved in 108 rooms. So these are filling the gap of what we need to provide some accommodation for our tourists. You've heard that we need, you know, overnight accommodations for our guests and tourists. These are filling that need. They're kind of a creative way to do that. You get folks out into the county or into the city and the historic district and neighborhoods. But from a neighborhood level and adjoining property concern, how do we handle that and make sure that their rights are protected and that we're making sure that these are compatible with the area. So we currently have 4 pending. We have 1 in circuit court right now that has not been approved, and we've got 3 out in the county that we've sent enforcement letters on because they're running short-term rentals, not the bed and breakfast. So what we would like to do is get this presented that they can run the short-term rental in A1 and R1A. What this does is it provides definitions. We have no clear definitions as to what bed and breakfast and short-term rental, so we created the definitions. We also created definitions of what a hotel, motel, extended stays. We didn't have those definitions. So while we were dealing with overnight accommodations, we went ahead and established definitions for those as well. So on the conditional use permit, you would now be able to do the B&B and the short-term rental. It's 30 days or less. It has to be occupied by the same person for 30 days or less. The bed and breakfast has to be operated by the applicant owner. This can't be a consignment or lease arrangement where the owner leases it out to an individual and then they sublease it. This has to be the owner has to be the operator of the B&B and the short-term rental. And that gives the neighbors and the community some assurance as to who's actually operating this and how it's being operated. They have to provide a sign. That was one of the things that we're hearing from adjoining property owners. If there's noise issues, if there's issues we're having, who do we contact? If it's like the one in New Hope, they're out of town, so they're absentee landlords, they're renting it out in New Hope. If there's concerns or there's problems, who do we contact? Of course, we're closed on the weekends and at night, so if they called our office, you're not going to be able to get in touch with that person. So one of the things that is required is that they have to have a sign on the property stating who the local contact person is and the phone number, that if a neighbor has to call or if the police are called, then the police will know who to contact with regard to the management of the facility. And we ask for it to be a local contact person rather than if they're in Hardin County, they're 30 minutes away or an hour away, that somebody here locally can get to the site and handle any of the issues.
How big an issue was that?
What's that?
That putting that name on the thing.
It really wasn't
every
a
place complaining about it, or just one place?
The ones in the city we're having a big issue with on noise complaints.
I was going to say, you know,
In the
how's
county, we're not.
anybody's business, really?
Well, I mean,
Well, let me interject here a little bit. If I move in a neighborhood like Edgewood, I move into a quiet neighborhood, and all of a sudden I've got 5 of these bed and breakfasts set up, and they're Bourbon Festival partying, or they're Bourbon Open, and the Bourbon Open is getting ready to come up, partying and carrying on. That's not what I bought into. And so I think it's important to have that feature to help hold somebody accountable, because it becomes commercial at that point.
it is a
in time.
commercial operation.
And the state law, I believe, says 30 days or less, because that's the way the tax is set up.
Well, and the building code also says transient guests are 30 days or less, and the local motel tax, everything's based on that 30 days or less.
So somebody out in the county got to pay the local motel tax?
Yeah. They're already,
If we're running-
Jimmy
if we're
Warner's
running-
paying for over in his, in Bloomfield. He's already,
And they also have to pay the state motel tax and the state
in
sales tax.
fact, he's the one paying, and those kind of people are the legitimate ones who are paying it. They're concerned about the ones that are not paying it.
Right, and that's where all this came from, was the Hospitality Association, and we were getting calls from the ones that have gone through the process, the ones that are paying their taxes and their business licenses, and they just, it's an issue of fairness, is that if we have to go through this process, then we would like everybody to comply. And then when we went through the enforcement process last year after the Bourbon Festival, we sent out 20 enforcement letters. This has also been a little awareness for property owners, as they really didn't understand what liability they had as an operator. Your regular homeowner's insurance will not cover a bed and breakfast. Most of the national insurance companies, the known companies that we have, State Farm, the other ones, they don't insure a bed and breakfast. So you have to go elsewhere to get bed and breakfast insurance, hotel insurance. So when we started doing this and we talked with the owners, they didn't realize they have to have professional grade fire extinguishers, they have to have CO2 detectors. All of this has to be provided in order for them to be covered.
It's going to get so costly that it's going to get out handy.
Well, we've got 48 of them, so it's obviously that are approved, so they're not too costly because they're able to rent these out on Airbnb, and some of them, we've got one in the county right now, they're renting it out for $1,500 a night.
With all this additional stuff they got to do, what's it going to look like?
The conditional use permit is $211.50.
$211.50. So that's an additional cost.
That's a one-time fee. That's
Per
always,
year, per year.
No, one-time fee.
One time.
They've always had to do that if they were going to operate a B&B anyway.
Okay.
This is if they want to do the short-term rental. Then they'll have to go through, they need to have a building inspection, and they also have to have the fire marshal if they're in the city. They'll have to have the fire marshal inspection.
Just a guess, what's that cost?
I don't know what those fire extinguishers and the CO2 detector, but it's covering them from liability. If something happens and they're not covered and they've not been inspected, I can't imagine what.
Well, the house I live in was a bed and breakfast before we moved in, and we had to have a boiler inspection. By mistake.
You gotta have
Would you
ingress,
have to
egress
be
from the second floor
handicap
window.
accessible as well, I'm sure.
And once it turns commercial, there are some exceptions to homes and to historic homes on that. But a lot of this is we're just making sure everyone is covered. They cover themselves. They go through this process, and I'm sure that they can provide that to their insurance company to provide proof that they've met all the criteria.
Really, the only, revisit what you're changing. A lot of this stuff we're talking about is already in place that we have no control over.
And a lot of it, the Board of Adjustments is already required anyway. The Board of Adjustments has always, even though it wasn't in the ordinance, the board has always had discretion to require things that may be
This has been going on for 5 or 6, 10 years, right?
We've had bed and
Ever
breakfast.
since Airbnb or whatever.
Airbnbs, that's what has kind of created the surge in some of the last year. It's just because the marketing has become much easier, VRBO, Airbnb. And everybody's just like, well, I can, Bourbon Fest, I can rent out a room and make $100 a night off of it. So that's what's really caused it. In town, we're having the bigger problem because we've got some neighborhoods that have 2 or 3. We have had them in Maywood, we've had them in Edgewood, we had 2 in Edgewood during Bourbon Fest last year. And so the neighbors are not real happy. They don't know who these folks are. If you have the colonel is very active with his, and they stay booked all the time. Well, if you're a neighbor next door, you've got a transient guest coming in and out that you don't know, and honestly, the applicant owner doesn't know who these individuals are either. They're renting it to them online. They show up.
They never see them.
They never see them. So there's just some concern. If you go on the internet, there are all kinds of nightmare stories. Luckily, we've not had that here. But we want to prevent that. There was one in Miami where she was subletting it out. They went in and they had put 20 mattresses on the floor. So they said they were only renting a couple of rooms, but well, they added some beds to it by adding mattresses. So we're just trying to get ahead of it. Hopefully, we don't have those issues. But it is a commercial use in a residential neighborhood, and you all have got quite a few R1A, Castle Cove, any of the other neighborhoods this could happen. And we're just, we continue to see. I thought once the city adopted this, we wouldn't see anymore, and we've already got 3 that are coming in next week. So it's really not going to prevent people from doing that, other than if we get too many in a neighborhood. That's when the Board of Adjustments will have to make a decision how many is too many in one particular neighborhood. Because you can start seeing commercialization of that neighborhood, especially if people are buying them for investment property and turning them into B&Bs or short-term rentals. So that's what we're trying to prevent. We're trying to protect the property values of people who have purchased thinking it's a single-family neighborhood, and they've purchased and you get 2 or 3 of them in a neighborhood with transient guests coming in and out. That's not very compatible and appropriate. So.
And thoughts from court?
I think it's a good idea. Very good idea.
Jan, all the cities of New Haven and Bloomfield?
Cities, New Haven's passed first reading, Bloomfield has, I'm not sure about Fairfield, and Bardstown's finished.
Number 2 on your list here is the B&B of short-term rental shall be in the name of the applicant owner, who shall be an owner of the real property on this B&B short-term rental use to be permitted. Does that include the ability for a company?
A corporation, yes, it does. And this does not affect any of the ones that are already approved. So they will all be grandfathered in under the old regulations until such time as they change ownership, and then the new owner will have to apply. And actually, this provides a little more flexibility because they can do the short-term rental, not just the B&B. But everybody else is grandfathered in.
So do you have any approximate guess of what it's gonna raise? Like you said, $100 a night, you mentioned that figure a while ago. So now they gotta get commercial grade fire extinguishers, they're gonna pay $211 for a conditional permit, but that's only.
They were gonna have to do that anyway, Keith. The $211, they were gonna have to go through the process.
They'd have to do that anyway.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Okay.
I want to distinguish what we're changing and what's current.
The only thing that's changing is.
Well, there's some of them out there right now operating without paying that $211. Am I correct?
There shouldn't be, other than 4 that I've got under enforcement.
Okay. And
And I
then,
have someone sending them to me every day, so I'm not having to look too hard for somebody. If they're showing up on
Your
Airbnb,
competitors turn you in.
their competitors are turning me in, turning not me in, but turning them in.
I've had 2 or 3 come to me and say this works, so it does happen.
I feel like it's that one.
But what's really changing is given the flexibility to do the short-term rental, it's requiring the building code and fire marshal inspection, and then it just requires them to pay the taxes that they should be paying anyway. But that's not under land use. We'll let the Tourist Commission handle their enforcement of the tourism.
Many of these homes, I can only speak to some of this downtown area. Many of these homes would rent out for anywhere from $500 to $700 a month. They're able to double and triple that by using them as a bed and breakfast. So there's cost involved if they're running it right.
Right.
And so the cost of doing commercial business versus the other typical rental business, there is cost involved.
And what we're seeing, this is not stopping. With 3 more applications coming in the city, the cost, the benefits are going to outweigh the cost of it for them if they're renting it out for $100 a night.
I strongly recommend approval of these amendments.
I just have some questions, but I'm not against it. But I just don't want to get it where it's priced out of range, where, because we are at a shortage in Nelson County of hotel rooms. And I want people to stay here, and I just don't want to get it where it costs you $500 a night. So
Well, with the
stay here in
prospects
Marktown,
of hotels and then the 108 rooms that we've got currently with this, I think we're probably going to meet the accommodations that we need. And then it diversifies, and it provides diversification of not everybody wants to stay at, a hotel.
Nobody,
Right.
not everyone.
And this actually, if the hotel is not owned locally, that money goes outside of the community. For these, you've got property owners who are able to make money off their home, and then they're returning that money in town. So this option allows money to stay in the community and adds wealth to the community rather than going to an outside hotel and that money going outside of the community. So.
I entertain a motion to approve on first reading and advertise for a second reading.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Barry.
I'll second.
Second by Sam Hutchins. Any further discussion? All approved, say aye.
Aye.
Disapprove? Motion carried.
Thank you, Jamie.
Thank you.